Get started. So we are verbatim, which is where language comes back to life. Today, more than 7,000 languages are spoken worldwide, and nearly half are endangered. Over 400 have disappeared in recent history, with researchers suggesting up to 90% could vanish by the end of this century. But the most urgent part isn't just the numbers, it's that our documentation tools haven't evolved to match the speed of loss or today's technology. We are racing extinction with workflows built decades ago. For every 1 hour of recorded speech, linguists spend 10 to 20 hours manually transcribing, annotating, and organizing data across fragmented tools. For example, a 100-hour field project can require nearly 2,000 hours of labor. That's almost a full year of full-time work, on top of everything else. And even after that effort, much of the data never becomes published and rarely becomes teachable. Languages don't wait for workflows to catch up. So let's talk about the gap in the current market. We have annotation tools, we have language learning apps, we have powerful AI LLMs, but there is no integrated infrastructure that connects documentation to structured data to learning activation, all while preserving community ownership and bridging once isolated communities to the rest of the world. VerbAItim is a linguist-built platform that streamlines endangered language documentation and transforms recorded speech into structured, teachable materials. We replace fragmented, manual workflows with an integrated system that accelerates documentation and converts it into learning pathways. AI supports the process quietly in the background, but the linguists remain in control, and communities retain full ownership of their data. We're not replacing expertise, we're amplifying it. At this time, our application serves two main roles. First, field linguists and researchers. We help them reduce documentation time, lower institutional costs, and move efficiently from raw recordings to structured outputs. The second are communities and learners. Instead of documentation sitting in the archives, it becomes accessible learning material, preserving identity and enabling reconnection. The workflow is simple. The field linguists upload the recorded speech. Our AI then generates draft transcription and IPA and structured value assignments, organizing the metadata and linguistic layers for linguist review. Once the data is cleaned and approved, with a click of the button, the documentation is sent to the learner's portal and structured learning pathways immediately. Now, let me show you how this works in practice. So, going into our demo, this is our web-based platform that we have built. And as you can see, it's going to have a general overview for anyone who lands on the page to learn more about what VerbAItim does. Now, from this page is where our two different learners and our different researchers can enter the platform. This is the field linguist review. So we have a dashboard for where they land and then immediately into the recording segment where they can immediately transcribe what the community members are saying into IPA as indicated on the screen. They can also add cultural context to explain what the context of the recording is and any cultural nuances that they captured during the recording. So such as hands together at heart center with a small bow in the greeting. Next, they also have our live editor. So this is where the field linguists are going to review and verify the data. And then this is where they would have their corpus library with all of their data and their logs of activity for review by universities. Then into the Learner Hub. This one is a little bit into our mock-up stage at this point in time. So we have it set to be more of an immersive experience with world building. So depending on the community, we will build a mimic version of the world with the dialogues associated with the vocabulary collected by the field linguist. So such as in the market, they will learn the language based on the dialogue collected by the field linguist and maybe how they go through the marketplace. They also have the ability to chat with the other fellow learners in the language in the same market space in the same world. So connecting communities. The gamification really comes from the marketplace and world building structure and also the ability to customize their avatar and to complete customization based on their interests. So why verbatim? There are existing tools like ELAN, Say More, and Toolbox, and they're powerful, but they're manual, fragmented, and stop at annotation. They don't move documentation into activation. Verbatim is linguist led by design. We integrate the workflow end to end, and we prioritize ethical infrastructure in AI by creating the AI so that the communities control their data. There is no ownership extraction. We are not another AI tool or layer. We are documentation infrastructure for the linguistics AI era. So for our pricing structure, we have our model as a tiered approach. Community access remains free at the core since we are community focused. Researchers and institutions subscribe for advanced capabilities per license. Institutional licensing will drive the sustainability, and long-term verbatim becomes an API infrastructure layer supporting universities, archives, and preservation initiatives globally. Our current focus is onboarding existing or newly started language documentation products into verbatim, while focusing our fundraising on language grants and language-focused research awards like American Councils, the Language Institute, or more. Once we have 10 onboarded, we can then deploy our language learning portal for communities to begin reviving their endangered languages. Afterwards, the next 3 years are all about scale, expanding with universities, research institutions, and further developing our unique AI layer into APIs and newer models. I want to thank you everyone for listening to our pitch today. I hope together we can come together and document languages faster and for verbatim so languages can keep living. Thank you.
Great job on the presentation. I thought the demo was beautiful, really nice work. My question here really is about the size of the market. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So with that, of course, it varies depending on the language focus and community. So of course, there's smaller ones and other bigger ones, such as in Indonesia, where there's over 700 languages and about 70% not even documented. So that's where we focus more onto the larger institutions that have the linguistics departments, as well as these more niche organizations such as National Geographic, that does the language preservation initiatives to give them the licensing so that their costs will offset the free access to others. So there is, while we can admit that this is rather niche, the hope is that this can then be used for beyond just linguistics and that it's all about being led by the human and then verified and expedited by the AI layer within it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I also have a question about sort of your core innovation or your core service. You're doing a lot in here. You have like research and documentation, there's content generation for learning, and there's the whole learning platform and the learner experience. There's a real risk of trying to do too much and then not doing anything well. So I guess what aspect of that do you feel like is really your core and the one that you would start, your MVP with instead of trying to do everything at once?
Great question. The main part that I tried to focus on in our timeline is the fact that we can't start this until there are onboarded language projects in order for the learner pathway to be generated too. So our goal is to start with at least 5 already completed language documentation processes. So then we have the existing data set to feed into the learner pathways while we improve the AI collection for the newer languages. So with that, the field linguist view would be the first priority for that MVP. Once we hit that magic number of 5, then the learner focus will be it. We have the mock-ups already for their learner pathway, but again, until we have the data sets, we can't really further develop that to being like the best method for learning.